Tuesday edition of First Take coming at you right now. LeBron and Steph have met 22 times in the playoffs, but this... Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Karam Rose at the Seaport NYC in the building. Looking clean, gentlemen. It's sort of like the playoffs. It's the play-in tournament. And guess what? It begins tonight. But I want to talk about Wednesday's matchup. LeBron James and the Lakers. They're facing the scoring champ Steph Curry and the Warriors, of course, without Klay Thompson at Staples Center, 10 Eastern, ESPN Mañana. LeBron has 27 career points per game to Steph's 24. Steph has 2 scoring titles to LeBron's 1. The King has double the amount of MVPs and 1 more NBA title. But Steph has gotten the best of LeBron in the playoffs. In 22 meetings between the two, Curry has gone 15-7 against the King. Max Kellerman, do LeBron and Steph help or hurt each other's legacy?
Well, LeBron has hurt Steph's legacy. By the way, you know I like analytics, right? Mm-hmm. But that's the difference between analytics and statistics.
Okay.
There are lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? You have to know how to contextualize them. Steph Curry has no such record like that in the playoffs against LeBron. That's absurd.
What I just gave you, 15-7?
Yeah, come on, let's look at really what happened. First time they link up in the playoffs, right? In the finals. Give me that look for. You already out. You're on one today already, huh? First time we're in a room together in a minute, and you're giving me that look already.
Oh, it has
First
been a
time
while.
they link up in a playoffs.
Yeah.
It was so obvious that LeBron was the best player in the series. Mm-hmm. He didn't have Kyrie or Kevin Love. Mm-hmm. Dellavedova was his second best player. They still took him 6 games. Who won Finals MVP? LeBron should have gotten it. They didn't want to give it to the guy on the losing team. They gave it to Iguodala because he guarded LeBron. Steph didn't win Finals MVP because it was so obvious that LeBron was way better than him and everybody else on the floor. That's the first Finals. Second Finals, a 73-win Warriors team is beaten by LeBron James. By the way, Steph wasn't going to win Finals MVP again. It was going to be Draymond. LeBron won it because he was the best player in the finals, so his team won. That should have been 2-0 for LeBron. Then KD joined a 73-win team, making it impossible for anyone else to. We all knew, okay, as soon as KD signed that team, this man right here was like, that's the weakest move ever by a superstar because you know it was a non-competitive move. LeBron had no shot. LeBron was still the best player in that series. But you know who the best player on the Warriors was? KD. Steph was second. Steph is so much under LeBron that everyone acknowledged Steph, Klay, Dre, Iggy, they need KD to help them beat LeBron, and then did it again the next season. How many finals has Steph played in? He's played in 5 finals. How many finals MVPs has he won? 0. And mostly, that's because of LeBron James. LeBron James, meanwhile, in every finals he's ever played in, except maybe the second one when KD won it, has been the best player on the floor. LeBron has hurt Steph's legacy.
First of all, not only are you wrong, blasphemous, and utterly ridiculous, but the other part about it is that you got to ask the question, because I don't recall Molly asking the question about who was the better player. That whole soliloquy you just went on was about LeBron being better than Steph. That wasn't a damn question. It was about whose legacy was affected. Now let's get to the legacy. How many times has Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors beaten LeBron in the NBA Finals?
With or without KD?
That's not my question. You don't get to ask the question. I asked you a question. How many times has Steph Curry's team beaten LeBron James' team in the NBA Finals? Answer it.
That wasn't a Steph Curry team.
3.
I asked the question. Does he play for the Golden State Warriors?
3.
You see how you try to avoid the question? Because I'm getting to a point. You're trying to delay the point that I'm trying to get to. 3 times, right?
Yeah.
How many titles would LeBron James have if he won those 3?
3 more titles than he has now.
How much would that be?
7.
How much more of Michael Jordan would that be?
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying.
So if LeBron James had 1 more title than Michael Jordan, perhaps there would be an elevated level of legitimacy to the argument that he is indeed the GOAT as opposed to MJ in some people's mind, not yours, not mine, but in the minds of many people. The fact of the matter is LeBron James has lost as many titles as Michael Jordan has won. Now, what I'm saying is this. When I talk about LeBron James being number 2 all time, I don't recall me ever saying that Steph Curry was in that conversation. I've said that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter God ever created. The greatest shooter we've ever seen, without question. He's number 1 by far in that category. But in terms of the greatest player ever, the argument and the discussion is LeBron, MJ, with people bringing up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. If there were not 3 NBA Finals losses on that resume for LeBron James, we might be having a different conversation. Yeah. Last time I checked, that's legacy.
Yeah,
not what you're talking
Max,
about with the best player.
I need to clarify something you said, because when I read that record today, you said it's lies, damn lies, and statistics. But on Friday's show, you told me records are statistics of events.
Or no, statistics are records of events. Right. So it records the events that took place, but it doesn't give you details. And once you get the details, you contextualize it. So let me now tell Stephen A. And let me just say, like, you're slick, Stephen A. You're good. If I'm not sitting here, you get away with that nonsense.
I'm actually great when I'm up against you.
I agree.
But go ahead.
You're great to even be able to stay in a conversation with me. That right there puts you in the inner sanctum of the Hall of Fame. Let me explain it. Let me explain this. When you say what's their record when they face each other, and LeBron would have 7 if not for Steph, that's where you're being slick. Because whoever you see in the finals is going to be a great team. Right? So if LeBron doesn't, whoever you see in the finals is going to be a great team. Out of the Western Conference, of course. Any one of those teams in the Western Conference
that's going to
be a loaded team. Generally out of the West. Those years that LeBron played the Western Conference team, you had to be loaded to get out of the West. So if LeBron in year 1 doesn't have Kyrie or Kevin Love, he probably loses to whatever comes out of the West anyway. That's 1 down. That's not Steph. Again, Steph didn't win MVP on his own team. Iguodala did for the defense he played on LeBron, which was simply acknowledging LeBron was the MVP. That's 1.
Simple question here. If LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers had gone up against Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant at OKC instead of Oklahoma City, you don't think that Cleveland would have had a chance?
Without Kyrie or Kevin Durant, they've gotten smoked.
Excuse me. Then why are you saying they would have gotten smoked? Because of the greatness of Kevin Durant?
KD and
the greatness of Kevin Durant, who you continuously malign, because you know what? This guy, I'm the one that called it the weakest move. But the point that I'm trying to make is he's not in LeBron's class. He doesn't come close. The decision making at the time of Russell Westbrook as a point guard and how that could have worked against them.
Time out. There are 2 dudes on that OKC team that are different, KD and Westbrook. Yes. Without Kyrie or Kevin Love, you got 1 dude on Cleveland. 2 usually beats 1. They probably lose. My point is, the next season, when you say count the chips, LeBron beat a 73-win Steph team. That's what you hang. That might be the greatest season ever in terms of the story of.
So if LeBron beat a 73-win, if LeBron beat a 73-win team, how come before, when he played and he should have been MVP, averaged damn near a triple-double, if not a triple-double in that NBA Finals, was absolute when he took a bow to Jim Brown, when he was absolutely sensational. They had a 2-1 lead on the Golden State Warriors. How come that LeBron could not have beaten an OKC team?
Without Kyrie.
I'm saying the way he was playing.
Because that OKC team was a great team. That OKC team the next year almost beat that Warriors team. They were loaded. They looked like maybe they were the best team in basketball in 16. And
according to you, LeBron almost beat them too.
Wait. So those are those 2, 15 and 16. If you look at 17 and 18, that's not Steph stopping LeBron. That's not him affecting LeBron's legacy. That's Steph and Clay and Dre and Iggy. Everybody, Steve Kerr, everybody saying, looking at LeBron going, we need more. Let's go get KD.
That ain't Steph. That's a team. In the end, his legacy is affected because of the fact that he has those 3 NBA Finals losses. And I'm just bringing up from a generic perspective, overall, the fact that you have 3 additional losses. If you are 4-6 instead of 7-3 in NBA Finals appearances, that might have something to do with your legacy. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he was on that team. He's one of the stars of that team. By the way, Steph Curry is a career 26.5 point per game scorer in the NBA Finals. Not to mention what he does in the postseason. It's bad because his numbers fall. He shoots 38% from 3-point range in the finals. Yeah. I mean, just stop the presses. What a catastrophe.
Yeah, let's be clear. When I say Steph chokes in the finals, I mean for his standard.
We're talking about Steph Curry here. The bottom line is there are 3 losses in the finals on LeBron's resume courtesy of Steph with
he
others.
was the unanimous MVP
Period. Doesn't matter.
in 16.
You'll remember that. You'll remember that. You'll remember that.
LeBron beat him.
You'll remember that because you read instead of watch. But for those of us,
I saw you in the game.
Yeah, I understand
You
that.
saw me in the game.
And you were there reading. The bottom line is you were there reading. You were there reading. That's what you were doing instead of watching the game. That's what you were doing instead of watching the game. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. For 7 titles. It would have been one more than MJ. That's what you're missing.
Okay, so Stephen A says Steph has hurt LeBron's legacy. Max says LeBron has hurt Steph's legacy. Just in case that wasn't clear. Great debate, though. Let's keep it rolling to the East Coast, where tournament has some interesting storylines. LaMelo Ball leads the Hornets against the Pacers in the 9-10 game. Winner to face the loser of the Wizards Celtics. The Wizards enter the play-in tournament as one of the hottest teams in the NBA, courtesy of Russell Westbrook. A big reason why he has recorded a triple-double in 23 of his past 30. Talk to me. And the Celtics enter the play-in tournament a bit hobbled. They will be without Jaylen Brown, who had surgery on his wrist, and will not be able to return to basketball for a few months. Let's stay in Beantown. Max, does Brad Stevens get a pass?
LeBron.
Excuse me.
Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown.
I would say he doesn't get a pass without LeBron.
Sorry, you can tell what's on my mind. Freudian.
Yes, he does get a pass without Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
And let me be very clear, Stephen A. When people like you or Kendrick Perkins start talking on TV about Brad Stevens and the locker room and stuff like that, it doesn't take a genius to read between the lines. I'm not doubting that stuff like that might be going on. But let me say this. This dude, Brad Stevens, has been in 3 of the last 4 Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. Now, this year we know what happened. Kemba Walker was hurt for a lot of the year. They had COVID, health and safety protocols that really disrupted the team. Lots of guys not playing. And I keep mentioning Gordon Hayward because, Stephen A., you're like, hey, guys looking sideways. Why are you playing Gordon Hayward? And I said, maybe coach needs that passing in the starting lineup. To me, it looks like he did this year. Missed Gordon Hayward. And now Jaylen Brown is down. Stephen A., they have 2 dudes who you look at and you go, well, you have those 2 guys. You should be able to do more. Tatum and Brown. And one of the guys is gone. Yeah, it's okay. Like, if they don't make a playoff run this year, he gets a pass. We understand why they didn't. Yes.
Brad Stevens does not get a pass. But before, you brought up the name Gordon Hayward. Just as an aside, he's now a member of the Charlotte Hornets, signed a lengthy new contract with the Charlotte Hornets, out for tonight's game because of a sprained foot. What the hell is going on, Gordon Hayward? What the hell is going on? He's been out for a while. Injured, really? Really? Listen. I'm being told that you got a lot of people in Charlotte who believe he can go. What's up? You got the money. You got the bag. It ain't like you're approaching free agency, bro. You're trying to play in a place. This team has collapsed over the last 10 games without Gordon Hayward. He's important to them. I mean, missing these damn games. What's up? I mean, damn. What's up? LaMelo back with the broken wrist and all. How the hell a sprained foot keeps you out this long? I'm just saying. Something that needed to be said, damn it. Okay. Now let me get to the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens doesn't get a pass. The reason why he doesn't get a pass is because nobody is looking at him and questioning his ability to coach the team. We know he knows his X's and O's. We know he's been to 3 conference finals in the last 4 years. I am on the record. I don't believe he deserves to be fired. I like Brad Stevens. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think his record speaks for itself. And I think that there's a level of credibility that he should have, and he should be a head coach on this level. Mm-hmm. He's earned it. Having said all of that, just because you deserve a job doesn't mean you deserve that job. At some point in time, Jaylen Brown, 24, Jason Tatum, 22. These are the cornerstones of your franchise. 2 young dudes who are relatively, based on age alone, relatively impressionable. They are coachable, etc., etc. In fairness to Brad Stevens, although Jason Tatum emphatically and categorically denied this when I asked him, and I interviewed him on Stephen A's World and my Sports Center with Stephen A. Smith show, the bottom line is you have a lot of people in Boston that have looked at Brad Stevens and wondered if they've turned a deaf ear to what he's saying. We know he knows what he's talking about. We know that he knows the game. We know that from that perspective, he deserves the credibility that he has. But there does come a point in time where you can look at an individual and say, they're just not listening to you anymore. And where I get annoyed, Molly and Max, is we don't hesitate to point that out about players. Well, coaches are human beings too, with a job description. And sometimes that job is your ability to do your job is compromised, not because of lack of knowledge. It's because people are tired of hearing your voice.
I wonder why.
And that's entirely plausible when it comes to Brad Stevens. When you look at these guys, it's about, to me, if you have a Jason Tatum and you have a Jaylen Brown, they were talking about they're both ball dominant and the ball doesn't move enough and all this other stuff that people were saying. And they brought in Kemba's injuries and they brought in Hayward's absence and they brought in Marcus Smart and what role he's going to play, et cetera, et cetera. At some point in time, it does come down to this. Can I have the pulse of my team? Can I get them to maximize their potential, galvanize? Can I galvanize the troops to reach peak potential? And if that answer is questionable with two young stars on your squad, you might need to have somebody in there that's a better motivator.
Fair enough. But the question is, does he get a pass? And when I hear that, what I'm thinking is, can I look at the circumstances of this season and the details of what happened and say, that's not on the coach? At least not entirely. Yes, I can. And by the way, we also have to look at Danny Ainge. Trader Danny, right? He's had a lot of talent.
Scared to pull that trigger.
Draft picks, everything, where he's a great GM. And I think Brad Stevens is a great coach, or a very, very good one. They're not perfect. There are better GMs and better coaches. Not many, but there are, I believe. But they're very, very good.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean you can't do better. Danny Ainge, as you said, he's had a lot of potential stuff there to make a championship with. He has failed to do it. Now, is this more on Danny Ainge or Brad Stevens or bad luck or the players? In the hierarchy of those things, I'm not putting Brad Stevens on top. I'm probably putting circumstance on top and then probably Danny Ainge, right? We don't look at the Celtics roster and go, they should win the championship.
No, but you do look at them and say they should have been better than 500. You do look at them and say they should have been one of the top 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference. You do look at them and say, with the two young cornerstones of this franchise, as good as they were statistically, there are things that were missing from their game that's about coaching, not about their skill set. You did look at them and say all of those things at some point, some juncture during the season. And as a result of that, all I'm saying is we get to look at Brad Stevens and say, yo, if you ask Brad Stevens right now, could you have done a better job this year? He most certainly would say yes.
Stephen A.
And that's the point.
But that's fair, and I'm not doubting what you're hearing at all whatsoever. I'm just wondering what changed. Why have they tuned him out?
Well, you know what? It does get to a point. Come on, y'all. Both of y'all know this. I know this.
What?
We all know this. You get tired of hearing people. There are certain people, no matter how right they are, you get tired of hearing them. You don't want to hear their voice anymore.
What Stephen A. is talking about is a real phenomenon.
Yes.
In different sports, like in football, baseball, you might say 10 years. After 10 years, certainly they just start. It could be the right message, but usually the team will start to tune them out.
I'm just wondering
what
would be better.
Molly, both of us are parents. All of us are children. Okay? We all love our parents. Come on, y'all. We didn't get to a point sometimes. I just don't want to hear this person right now. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, when you're a teenager.
Wait a minute. No. Period. Young teenager, even when you. No. You do. Now, occasionally is what I'm talking about. The difference is they're not parents. They're coaches. Mm-hmm. And if I'm a player with a guaranteed contract, empowered to some degree, when I get to a point where I don't want to hear him no more, I don't want to hear him anymore.
One thing that I think we also have to consider, because I said in the hierarchy, I'd put Ainge first, or circumstances first, bad luck, then Ainge. The question is it Stevens or the players? And I'll say this. Tatum, I think, maybe one day could be the number one option on a championship team. Maybe, right? Jaylen Brown's an excellent player. There are levels to this. Just because you have 2 all-stars does not mean you have 2 dudes who can lead you to a championship. Yeah. Are those 2 good enough?
They're young. They're too young to lead to a championship. But they're gifted enough, talented enough, committed enough, focused enough, and professional enough to be better than what they were.
Max,
and that's where you got to look at the coach.
Anyway, outside of AD and LeBron, and we'll get into that later, the subject of the big 3. with Chris Bosh, so that'll be fun. Okay, the feel-good story this NBA season has been fellas, I don't know if you've heard, but the surging young Knicks, they've exceeded expectations under Tom Thibodeau. His New York squad has locked up a 4 seed and, more importantly, home court. Here's our Mike Breen on how MSG has become a destination again.
About midway through the season, to me, they accomplished what was their number one goal, and that was to change the perception of where the Knicks were. In terms of change the perception around the league, change the perception with other players, with agents, in terms of going forward, is that a good place to go play? Well, now all of a sudden, that's a good place to go play because, man, that team plays hard. They play together. And New York Knicks basketball is now something people are talking around throughout the league. So they accomplished that, which to me was number one priority.
Oh, Stephen A.
Yes.
So many good destinations that you love.
Yeah.
Los Angeles, you spend more time there now. Miami, it's great to vacation. You were just in the islands.
There's nothing wrong with South Beach. Never anything wrong with South Beach.
I need to know this.
Yeah.
Are the Knicks a destination spot now?
Believe it or not, no. Not yet.
What do you know about Stephen A?
Let me tell you this, West, Worldwide West. Please don't text me. Don't get
Where
on
are your
me about this.
pom-poms?
Arnold,
Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. What you talk about, Stephen A? Listen, here's the deal. It's not a destination spot yet. Let me explain. I can't say enough about Tom Thibodeau. He's number 2 on my Coach of the Year. I have a vote, and I'm not gonna hide it. I voted for Monty Williams. Monty Williams, Coach of the Year. Tom Thibodeau's a close number 2. I think the job Monty Williams did in Phoenix is sensational. Leon Rose is my Executive of the Year. I think he's done a phenomenal job.
Absolutely.
With Scott Perry and Worldwide West, William Wesley there, from that particular standpoint, culturally, the New York Knicks can very well be a destination spot. I'm not going to even blame Dolan, because in recent months, Dolan has, thank God, stayed out of the media, stayed out of the news. The question mark is Tom Thibodeau. Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he's number 2 Coach of the Year, my candidate. Great coach, number 1 defense, number 1 against three-point shooting, top 5 against the field. But today's player, they want to control stuff. That ain't happening with Tom Thibodeau. You're not going to engage in load management of your own accord working for Tom Thibodeau. You ain't going to get too many perks playing for Tom Thibodeau. You going to prioritize basketball. You playing for Tom Thibodeau. You're not going to go up on podiums talking about basketball is not on your mind. That ain't happening with Tom Thibodeau. That kind of stuff. I'm just going to take days. I'm just going to take days off. Now, that ain't happening with him.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it as a negative to him, because Tom Thibodeau has been on the record talking about the adjustments that he has had to make as a head coach, from Chicago to Minnesota, where he was controlling the whole thing, to now being in New York. And I give him loads of credit for that, and I believe in it. But I'm talking about today's culture of player and what they like and what they've grown accustomed to. Colliding with
it could clash with certain
colliding and clashing with the tendencies of Thibodeau.
Yep.
That is what has me a bit suspect.
I don't know what
It
to
is a young
argue with
team.
first. Because I was prepared to come out here. Last segment, you're going, New York, stand up.
Yeah.
So
Talk about it right now. These
admission,
playoffs.
they got no chance to get past the second round. So you're saying
I didn't say that.
The bar.
Who said that?
The Knicks are getting to the conference.
I didn't say that. You said no chance. I'm not ready to rule that out. I'm not ready to rule that out. I'm not ready to rule out that second round matchup against the 76ers. I'm not ready to dismiss that. I'm not ready to dismiss it. No, I'm not ready to dismiss it.
New York, stand
I'm not ready to
up.
dismiss
This
it.
is how low the bar has been set.
Yeah.
The bar has been set so low that they have a chance to win a playoff series. This is a team that since the year 2000 has never been to the Eastern Conference Final. A chance to win a playoff series is all you need, and it's New York, stand up. And you know what? I think the league is feeling that too. I have to be honest. New York is such a desirable market to play in, such a place where you can amplify your brand. And these superstars nowadays want to be billionaires. They got their eyes on the prize, right? Knicks are a place they feel they can do it if the culture is healthy enough. And now, I don't think it's any brilliant move by Dolan. As you would say, even a dead clock is right twice a day, right? Or in Dolan's case, once every 2 decades. I think finally this regime has gotten it right. You're right to look at Leon Rose and Worldwide West and Thibodeau. They've done a very good job. And now I think the league is looking at its healthy place to play, and it's New York City, and it's the Knicks. But let me now address what you just said about Thibodeau. I never saw Thibodeau as the long-term coach for the Knicks. To me, the Thibodeau, fairly or unfairly, I think is perceived like Mark Jackson, or in baseball, Buck Showalter. There are some coaches, general managers, coaches, managers, whatever, who are seen as this dude can get you to a healthy place. He can change the culture, and then you need someone else to get you over the top, whether fair or unfair. And I look at Thibodeau, and I just always assume that's what the Knicks are thinking. He's going to get us to a place. Maybe not. When you talk about you drown out the message after a while, right? Thibodeau strikes me as a type of dude who might burn out a team after 3 or 4 years, and then you bring in another guy to get you over the top.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is I'm not pointing the finger at Thibodeau as if he's at fault, because he's exactly the way he should be, and he's what's needed in the game of basketball today as far as I'm concerned. I'm not blaming him at all. I'm just simply saying the culture that exists amongst today's players. The question is, how receptive are those individuals going to be, knowing the reputation that Thibodeau has once had, even though he's modified it to some degree? That's the question mark, which is why I said it remains to be seen whether or not this is, the destination, because he's the guy that's there. Because if you're the New York Knicks, he's a godsend. I know he's a godsend to me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate Tom Thibodeau. But I will say this. They got to win a championship in Brooklyn. Because, my God, if they don't, let me tell you something. No one will regret not going to New York more than Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Listen.
They're right there.
This is Brooklyn. Listen, Brooklyn is one of the boroughs. You understand? It's like it's Queens. Mets and Queens, Mets and Queens, right? But we don't talk about them too much. It's the Yankees. You understand what I'm saying?
The Giants, the Jets don't even play
I'm just trying to tell you. Brooklyn is nice. You understand? And listen, I root for Brooklyn against everybody but the Knicks, because I'm all about New York first, unlike some traders I know. I'm all about the boroughs. Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, Manhattan. I'm about the boroughs, baby. So I ain't rooting against Brooklyn except against the Knicks. But I'm telling you, when there's something special, and you have to admit this with your hating trader self. Even you got to admit this. No matter what success that's achieved in Brooklyn, could you imagine if it had been achieved for the Knicks? If they don't win in Brooklyn, I'm talking specifically about KD and Kyrie. If there is not a championship parade on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, I promise you, they're going to sit back and go like this. Damn.
One question.
What if we were in New York?
One question.
What if we were in New York City playing for the orange and blue? As Spike Lee would say, orange and blue skies, baby. Do you know I went by Spike Lee's office last week? We took a picture. We had the net. He had the actual media. It was the actual net from the 73 NBA championship game 7. Actually, I think it was 70. I'm sorry. When Willis Reed came on, he had the net to that.
That was 69-70.
It was 69-70. He had the net to that, okay? And we took a picture right outside his office. Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies.
That's a long time ago. I wasn't born 69-70.
That's
you
right.
say that's a long time ago?
Yeah, I was.
I have one question.
50 years.
You said if the Nets don't win the championship.
51 years now.
Let me pose another question. What if the Nets do win the championship?
I think that we'll have no choice but to celebrate them. I think Brooklyn will be crazy. New York Knicks fans will be, all right, y'all got it.
You know why New York
but it ain't going to be the same.
Good. I mean, we have a good parallel,
Ain't going to be the same.
right? Lakers, Clippers, and Knicks.
Ain't going to be the same.
There's a difference. The Nets are not the Clippers. I'll tell you why. Because the Nets, who won a championship in the ABA with Dr. J, have never been in New York as an NBA team. They were in Jersey. Mm-hmm. So the Knicks were running unopposed. And since they were running unopposed, they had the whole town. Mm-hmm. Now they're in Brooklyn. That is New York. By the way, the Yankees are in the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx.
So was I.
I grew up in Manhattan, right? the Knicks are the only, and the Rangers are the only teams that play in Manhattan.
That's right.
You want to call that New York? Everyone else plays in the boroughs.
I understand
Okay?
it, but they still
Just
call
like
it. But it's called New York. It ain't
Brooklyn.
but they calling themselves Brooklyn, and that's all right. You know this, Max. But maybe you don't. Maybe you don't, Max, because you don't travel too much like that. But in New York City, but there's a difference between getting stuck in traffic on Broadway and getting stuck in traffic on Atlantic Avenue. You understand? It's just a different feel. You wouldn't understand that, Max. I understand it. I understand it. You wouldn't get. You wouldn't get that. You would. Oh, that is so wrong.
Oh,
that is so wrong.
Barclays? Are you out of your mind?
I'm just telling you. You don't understand. You understand. Let me tell you something. They better win.
8th Avenue.
They better win. They better win. Because if they ain't the champion, if we're not talking about the Nets as champions at the end of the season,
I'm very disappointed.
you won't even hear anybody talking about it.
I'm very disappointed.
You won't even hear anybody talking about it.
You argued the Knicks are in a destination spot. Very
Not yet.
disappointed.
And then turned around and said Brooklyn's not in New York.
Luka had a classic playoff fallout from the showdown at Staples. All right, let's go. Staying in LA, the Mavericks-Clippers first-round matchup will be a rematch from last year's postseason. In Game 4, Luka had this memorable game winner to tie the series up at 2. Unfortunately for the Mavs, Kristaps Porzingis missed games 4 through 6 after he suffered a lateral meniscus tear in his right knee. The injury caused him to miss the rest of the postseason. And after the series was tied up, knotted at 2, Kawhi and the Clippers took the next 2 games to close out the Mavs in 6. Kawhi averaging nearly 33 points per game in the series. Max Kellerman, who is more important to this series, your boy Luka or Kawhi Leonard?
It's actually Kawhi Leonard.
Okay.
First of all, we're in the playoffs. You notice how Luka has been a little hot-tempered this entire season, showing a little immaturity? Is that Kawhi Leonard? We have to worry about Kawhi losing his cool in the playoffs. And I know he had a bad Game 7 against Denver.
Yeah.
That was atypical. Kawhi Leonard has been one of the greatest postseason performers in the history of any sport. He's been incredibly clutch. In fact, last year against Dallas, same series, right? 33, 10, and 5 for the series. Shooting 54% from the field. And you know what his plus-minus was? 38. When he's playing you 38 points better over the course of the series than the Dallas Mavericks. Stephen A., except for the plus-minus, everything I just said only speaks to Kawhi's offense. What's Kawhi going to be primarily known for? His defense. Actually, they're statistical, offensively, statistically, Luka and Kawhi are very similar. Kawhi has more steals, of course. Luka has more assists, of course. They're different kinds of players. But offensively, they're very similar in terms of what they're going to score and their rebounds and all this stuff. And then defensively, there's no comparison. So when you add all that up and then plus take into account Kawhi's history of clutch performances, the answer is Kawhi Leonard.
The answer is not Kawhi Leonard. And I'm not taking anything away from the greatness of Kawhi Leonard, because even though I get on him about the load management stuff, the bottom line is he is an elite performer when it counts for the most part. And I won't take that away from him. I know how great he is. But last time I checked, Paul George ain't nothing to sneeze at. Rondo, meaning playoff Rondo, is nothing to sneeze at. Reggie Jackson is not a scrub. Morris can play. They just picked up Kennard. They've got DeMarcus Cousins. They've got a few others. Without Luka, what are the Dallas Mavericks? I'm sorry. This is a brother we ignore because we've been paying so much attention to the greatness of Steph Curry, the triple-doubles of Russell Westbrook, the injuries to Anthony Davis, and, of course, LeBron James. We just forgot that a guy by the name of Luka Doncic is averaged 27.7 points, 8.6 assists, 8 rebounds, shooting 47.9% from the field and 35% from three-point range. How many people in the league got those numbers? And the Dallas Mavericks were 42 and 30.
Putting in that work.
All right, and this is with Kristaps Porzingis missing 29 games this year. They are 42 and 30, 12 games over 500, okay? A top 4 or 5 seed in the West with a superstar that has flown under the radar.
Oh.
The Dallas Mavericks, hold on. The Dallas Mavericks are nothing. Nothing without Luka Doncic other than Mark Cuban. Shark Tank, Mark Cuban, billionaire, Mark Cuban, brilliant mind, somebody we all love talking to, definitely a friend of the show, and of course the championship coach that is Rick Carlisle. The point is, Luka is everything. Everything to that. In this series, even without Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers have a chance. Without Luka, Dallas, I would say lottery, but they'd be lower than that.
I would agree with that, actually. If you took Luka off that team, they have less of a chance because he runs their offense. You say the primary ball handler on a squad who runs your offense is more important. I think that's a good argument. But actually, when you look at these two teams last year, Clippers should have lost that series.
It was 2-2. It was 2-1. Clippers were up 2-1. Porzingis, by the way, dropped 34 in that third game.
That's what I'm
But they still lost that game. They were still down 2-1.
They threw Porzingis out of the game because he barely argued two bad calls on both sides of the floor.
Right.
And then he got hurt.
And they got to stop that.
When Porzingis was on the floor, they were the better team. We know what we're going to get from Luka. We know what we're going to get from Kawhi. Those two dudes are studs. Really, if you want to start getting to what would the team be without, it's going to come down to the play of Paul George on the one hand and Kristaps Porzingis on the other. If you want to make it like that, then we say which second banana is going to play better. That'll determine the series. But who's going to be the best player on the court? It's going to be Kawhi Leonard.
I'm sorry. Did you ask who was going to be the best player? Wasn't the question is the most important? Was that not the question? That's what I answered. I didn't say that Luka was better than Kawhi. I said the most important player is Luka Doncic because without Luka Doncic, there is no playoff series. Without Kawhi Leonard, there still might be. Without Luka, there's no series.
Talking about in this series.
Did I just say that?
The reason there's no playoff series without Luka is because
the Dallas
Cavs has been hurt the whole season.
And the Dallas Mavericks don't have pretty much anything else.
No, they have some other pieces.
That he makes look good.
Look, no, they have actually other guys who can play. But he is the guy running their
I'm not calling them scrubs. I'm saying they're in the lottery. They're irrelevant. They don't exist if it were not for Luka Doncic.
If Porzingis were hurt all year, that's true. He's not hurt for this series. He's going to be playing in this series. And he was the pivotal guy last year. When he was playing, they were better than the Clippers. When he was out, they were worse than the Clippers.
Okay.
Porzingis.
Okay. Well, when you get a feather and you throw it by Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and he's out for 2 weeks because of it, because he got hit by a feather.
You can't expect him to survive a feather.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
Ridiculous.
Come on, man.
Setting the bar too high.
All right, we'll leave it there. When we get back here on First Take, LeBron says he's underappreciated as a scorer. Someone agrees. I'm going to ask one of his teammates, a Hall of Famer, about this. Trust me, you don't want to miss this debate surrounding the King's ability as a bucket getter. Stay here. It's First Take. Oh, what do we have?
Around the world, absorbing light.
Stephen A., what team from the East playing can actually make a run?
I think it's the Washington Wizards. I mean, if Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal get on a tear, this is a guard-oriented game. And even though you need contributions from everybody, if you get sensational play from the guard spot by not one, but two guys, that definitely can change things for you for the better. It's the Wizards.
I like it. Max, are the Blazers being slept on?
I don't think they're being slept on. I think people recognize Denver is favored. Jokic is the MVP this year. Apologies to not only Steph Curry, but also Damian Lillard, who faded a little bit toward the end of the year, carried a lot of the load. But I think people think that the Blazers have chances. It seems like they're being rated appropriately to me. Probably they lose, but it's not a slam dunk, as they say.
All right. Stephen A., what team from the West should be on upset alert?
I think it could potentially be the Utah Jazz. What if the Los Angeles Lakers lose the play-in game to the Golden State Warriors, but then win their battle against the winner of the 9th and 10th seed? They end up the 8th seed going up against the Jazz. You trying to tell me the Lakers with Anthony Davis and LeBron healthy can't beat Utah? I think they could.
Tomorrow, LeBron and the Lakers host Steph and the Dubs in that play-in tournament. Stephen A. was just talking about the King tweeting this about scoring. Listen up, y'all. Since I was 19 years old, and I'm a pass-first guy, always been. That's why I'm never mentioned with the greats of scoring. That's perfect, because I'd rather keep it that way. LeBron sharing this graphic where it shows he has the most 25-point-per-game seasons in NBA history. He has 17. My goodness, guess who's joining us now? Where is he? An HOFer is on my screen. I bow down, sir. Chris Bosh.
What up, man?
See you. Huge congrats. How you feeling?
Thank you very much. I'm feeling great. Everything has been great. It's just a celebration of basketball. I've been thanking those who have helped me along this process. I've been thanking my family and, really showing my kids that daddy could play once upon a time.
Chris, a lot of guys, before they get into the hall, they'll say, it matters. But you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But now that you're a member of the Hall of Fame class of 2021, put into perspective how much that means to you at this moment in time, to know that it's official. You're a Hall of Famer.
It means everything. I've had experiences, and we've all experienced, especially, with the late, great Kobe Bryant being the main example. But everybody doesn't get to have that honor, even if you have the accolades to prove it. And everybody doesn't get that experience. So just to have that experience, just to be mentioned among the greats in the game, that's, all I ever wanted to do was play basketball. To have that opportunity just to get in the gym, like getting in an open gym was the best day for me. Just playing on the court with my friends was the best day for me. Those were the perfect days. So to have that come full circle, to remember all of those who helped me along this path, and just give a kid like me a chance once upon a time, that's all I've been thinking about. And it's really been so great just to think about every experience I've had with basketball and how great of a ride it was and how much, connections and how many friends I made just from being able to play the game I love. It's been tremendous.
A dream come true. The last thing I'll just say, obviously, I appreciate your humility, thanking everyone. But you mentioned Kobe, like his wife, Vanessa, so eloquently said, you did the work, though. So,
Didn't care about the stats either, just one championship.
You put in the work. All right, let's get to this debate because I'm pretty excited about it and happy to have you two here for it as well. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Do you think LeBron... What?
Why are you asking me first?
Who do you want me to start with?
Go ahead,
I can't win, America. I can't win with these men.
Go ahead.
Is LeBron's scoring underappreciated? You just saw that graphic.
No. The word underappreciated should never be associated with LeBron James. You know what, Chris? I'm doing this just for you, Chris Bosh. Just for you, because I can't take it. I can't take it. Chris, I'm getting up right now. Watch this, Chris. Walk over here, Chris.
Here we go.
Chris, follow me, Chris. Are you with me, Chris? I want to make sure, Chris, as his boy, Chris, his former teammate, a two-time champion with him, am I leaving anything out, Chris? Because I asked this question to Max on top. I got tremendous basketball ambassador, fantastic father and husband, generous philanthropist, Hollywood power broker, gets out the vote, incredible actor, author, builder of schools, all around fantastic guy. Chris Bosh, did I leave anything out? Is there anything on it? Because I want to make sure, Chris, before I get into this, I want to make sure that I'm being fair to LeBron James, because God forbid I say a scintilla of a negative word about a Maverick and Rich Paul and everybody else is going to be calling me. I mean, did I leave anything out, Chris?
I think that's a good start, man. You're off to a pretty good start. I mean, I think we can start talking basketball. I mean, you got the ambassador part. I think now we can dig into the game.
Will your boy D Wade have any issue with anything, me leaving anything out?
I don't think so, man.
Because he's another one that'll text and go off. Okay, so I want to make sure about this. Okay, now let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm looking at my man Chris Bosh here. LeBron James is one of the top two players in the history of basketball. The history of basketball. Basketball that includes Bill Russell. Basketball that includes Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We could go Iceman George Gervin. We could go David Thompson, for crying out loud. We got all of these people up there. I didn't even bring up all the greats, the Isaiah Thomases of the world. How about Mark Aguirre? Remember him, Max Kellerman, Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, Elijah Moore, David Robinson, Tim Duncan. LeBron James with the thousands upon thousands of people that have played in the NBA in history, I have as the number 2 player in the history of basketball that was invented by James Naismith. Number 2. Is that underappreciated, Chris Bosh? Underappreciated?
No.
No, I don't think so.
The question is as a scorer,
and here's,
but no.
Chris, I apologize for him. I just want you to know that.
Chris, if you don't mind,
I can't take him
Chris,
anywhere.
if you don't mind, I just want to see one thing. Here, follow me over here. Can you put that back up? Can we put that list back up? Is that possible? I just want to see something.
We're all on
The
one
list is
today.
gone. Can we put it back up? Yes or no?
Put it back up.
Because what I didn't see here it is. I'm looking. I don't see it. No, it's not there. Where is all-time scoring leader? Because when he retires, that's what he's going to be. He's going to be.
Is he that yet?
He's third.
Is he that
He
yet?
is third. Let me tell you something. He's got 17 seasons, as he tweeted out, of at least 25 points. You know what Kobe has? Also came out of high school. Also played forever. 12. Well, Kobe didn't get a lot of minutes early on. He got 12. You know what Jordan has? I agree. Jordan at his peak is number 1. LeBron is number 2. But he has 12. All those guys, he's 5 seasons of 25 points ahead of the next best guy as a scorer. And we all said before he turned pro, when he was still in high school, he was billed as Magic and Michael had a baby. And it's LeBron, and he is past
Only
first.
person who said that was you.
Well, they said he's a combination of Magic and Michael. I said had a baby.
The numbers were all facts, though.
But all
All
I'll say is this. He is past first. What he does best is pass. But let's not pretend he's not a 6'8", 250-pound freight train who can jump out the gym and average close to 30 points a season.
Go ahead, Chris.
We'll talk to the guy who played with him, the Hall of Famer.
well, man, all right, that's a great start, guys. Is he underrated as a scorer? I mean, that's a tough question. I do think he makes parts of the game look tremendously easy. And, there has been attempts to try and guard him and say, oh, his weakness might be shooting, and we're going to go under the screen, because you're kind of stuck in a paradox when you play LeBron. Is he going to pass? Is he going to shoot? I mean, 25 points a game for 17 seasons in a row. I couldn't even maintain it for one season, and that was the hardest season I ever played, as a leading scorer. But just the fact, I mean, he's third all-time on the all-time score list. He's third, and he still has a lot more basketball to play. I think he's just so unselfish and such a team-first guy. And I think people should take heed to it, because if there's even some notion that he's underrated as a scorer, that's right where he wants to be, because he's going to light you up for 25 points a game in the regular season at age 37 years old. I mean, that's an incredible feat at 36, 37 years old. So, he has every move in the book. He's done everything you can possibly do. He can get in the lane. He can destroy you in a multitude of ways. But more importantly, he's a team first guy. He wants his teammates getting the ball, getting in rhythm, making plays for themselves and for him as well. And when he's in that pocket, I think that's when he's at his best.
Chris Bosh, let me say this to you. And I'm going to say this to you right now, because I'd say it to LeBron to his face, because I love the guy personally. I really do. An incredible ambassador, incredible role model, incredible champion and a player and a leader. He deserves all the credit in the world for that. And I don't consider it an insult at all to call him number 2 overall. Maybe if he shot better than 73% from the free throw line, he'd be number 1. I mean, we have to pay attention to that, okay? We also have to, and again, you might call it nitpicking, but when we're talking about comparing you to the elite, he's right there with anybody, but getting over the hump is what you're dissecting. And so for me, Chris Bosh, one of the things that when we talk about his champion or lack thereof, he's a 4-time champion, right? I understand that some of those finals losses weren't on him. He never had a chance in hell against the Spurs, his first NBA finals. We know what kind of team he had, okay? And then when y'all went to 4 straight finals, you went 2-2. I think it should have been 3-1 myself. You should have beat Dallas, but that's a different subject for another day. What I'm saying is this: when you look at certain things, what LeBron has evolved into, I think, is worthy of strong GOAT consideration. The problem is we have to take into account the totality of your career, what you were leading up to that compared to what others were, the hesitancy, the fears, whatever words you want to use. We take all of that into consideration, too, when we are judging the totality of your career. And that, to me, is where MJ is number one and LeBron is number two.
I'm not here. Look, Chris, I'm not here arguing for LeBron over MJ. MJ is the greatest player of all time. Stephen A is exactly right. LeBron is number two. Fine. We're talking about LeBron as a scorer right now. Stephen A, he is slept on as a scorer because people, as a scorer. Look, he is not only going to wind up with the most points of anyone who ever lived, right? But in the playoffs, he scores more than he does in the regular season. He's had playoff series 44, 50, 48. In other words, when you need him the most, he does what he needs to do. Right. But when you talk about the all-time great scorers, you don't talk LeBron. We
got to go. It's 2 versus 1 here. Chris, do me a favor. I know it's a lot. You might want to run. I do at times, but we need you later in the show, so please sit tight. When we come back...
Ain't going away.
Just got to stay the course, stay together.
Yeah, it would be disappointing.
Denver's not going away. The Clippers are not going away.
It's not going to be easy.
Milwaukee and Philadelphia is not going away.
The Knicks are back.
We shall see. We shall see.
It's going to be a show.
He's the best show in the NBA.
Some guys got it like that.
I'm not that delusional. What the hell is going on?
This is going to be such a problem.
If those 3 guys are healthy, good luck stopping them.
It puts all the pressure on Brooklyn. The reality is, when we going to start talking about that?
The hottest takes in the NBA postseason.
Whether people want to admit it or not.
Every day on First Take.
Can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen. As the NBA playoffs near, Mike Wilbon has some thoughts on who in the league will be under the most pressure through it all. Mike.
If I'm going to look at a player who may be facing more of it this particular postseason, it's because he hasn't won. As great as he's been, he hasn't won. It would be James Harden. He's got the chance this postseason to completely flip that narrative. And if he's healthy, he looks like he's up to it.
Okay, Max. Michael Wilbon says it's James Harden. Who do you think's under the most pressure in these playoffs?
I think KD is, because the public perceives KD as the guy, and he formed this team, and he joined a 73-win team. But Harden's the most important player in these playoffs. And the reason is, Stephen A., because you and others have incorrectly said that Mike D'Antoni's system is a problem winning a championship, right? But in fact, when D'Antoni has James Harden as his muse, he gets way closer with no talent, really, compared to the Warriors, say, than he ought to, to a championship. Let me explain. When LeBron James had Kyrie and Kevin Love, they beat the Warriors. Then the Warriors added KD. And even LeBron, you got on LeBron, Stephen A., for going into those final series basically making comments like, we can't win against these guys, right? Even LeBron, KD, or LeBron,
It was
Kyrie,
a concession speech.
Right. Giving consent, because who could beat that team? It's impossible. A 73-win team adds a prime KD. It's over. The Rockets played that same squad with everybody. They had everybody. And they hosted a Game 7 at home without Chris Paul. And at one point missed 27 consecutive threes. Lost by single digits. So you know what this Brooklyn team is right now? You know who James Harden is right now? This is like the Warriors running D'Antoni. This is the most talented team with the most superstars playing the most efficient brand of basketball. It's James Harden, because I know Steve Nash is putatively the coach, right? He's the head coach. But D'Antoni and Harden, you could see when Harden took over, he's doing his thing. He's running the pick and roll. He's doing his thing. This is as though KD and Kyrie got traded to those Rockets teams. If these 3 are healthy, James Harden is the key, running really a Mike D'Antoni Houston Rockets style offense. It's over.
The individual facing the most pressure, in my estimation, normally would be KD, but my attitude is 18 months off because of the Achilles tear, coming back. Although he's looked healthy, he's missed his share of games this year. We don't know how healthy he truly is, particularly as playoff basketball intensifies. So I think that he'll be even better next year, and that's when the pressure will heat up, not so much this year. To me, the pressure is on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Last time I checked, he's the reigning two-time league MVP, back-to-back. Last 3 years, he's averaged 27, 29, and 28 this year, averaging 10, 11, and 9 rebounds respectively, shooting 57, 55, and 56% from the field. Last 2 seasons, Milwaukee were the number 1 seed. 2-0 in the conference finals. They get bounced 4 straight by Kawhi and the Toronto Raptors. Last year, after basically blitzing the Orlando Magic, they go against the Miami Heat, get taken out in 5 games. What does Milwaukee do? They give him $245 million. They give him Drew Holiday. They blew the opportunity to give him Bogdanovich, which I thought would have been a huge plus because somebody opened their mouth before the deal was solidified and they got nixed. But you still went out and elevated yourself defensively by grabbing P.J. Tucker, a savvy veteran, very, very smart, capable of hitting corner threes, but more importantly, is a defensive stalwart. When you take all of those things into consideration, and we talk about an individual player, not the team, but the player that all eyes should be on with this mentality of what you gonna do, definitely is Giannis, because Giannis hasn't even been to an NBA Finals yet.
But Giannis is not playing on a team stacked like the Nets. I mean, Drew Holiday is a nice player, and Middleton is a good player. They have good players on the team, but people recognize when you have 2 MVPs on the same team and then another dude who's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, it's too much. It's like the talent is too much on Brooklyn. And I agree with you, Giannis can't lose to the Heat again, but he don't have to get to the finals for people to say, and people say that's not a success.
Everybody's looked at Milwaukee and they said, you know what, with Brooklyn, it takes KD to beat them. Well, guess what? That's because of Giannis. Handle your business.
I don't know. I don't
Handle your
know if
business.
Giannis even has a big 2. All right, but we have to go, guys. In this day and age, do you need a big 3?
Carry on. I got to fight to prove my love.
Let me finish
Max,
this.
that's Max. Stop. Just stop. Max Kellerman. Stop it, Max. Stop it. What, Max? What are you talking about?
Calm down.
Hold that L. He better knock him down. He's a professional.
Bro, put some respect on that man's name.
We lost our mind debating with you.
Yeah, you lost, all right. They want all this smoke.
Carry on.
Tell them why you're mad. Yes, it is time for a new segment. Carry on. Max and Stephen A., here's the deal. Listen up. Big Perk's got something he wants to say. He's got to get it off his chest. And you cannot interrupt him until he finishes. Go for it.
That's
Big
right.
Perk, what's on
What's
your
up,
mind?
Molly?
Hey.
That's right, Molly. You tell Stephen A. and Max to keep a cool booty while I address this situation, all right? And look, I know y'all rolling with the Brooklyn Nets to come out of the Eastern Conference, and I picked the Philadelphia 76ers, Doc Rivers, Sam Cassell. I love you guys. But I'm going with the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm going with Greek Freak, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. Yes, I am. They have everything that they need to win the East. They have depth, they have shooting, they have rim protection and Brook Lopez. And by the way, they're not going to get bullied. They have some rough riders and Bobby Portis and P.J. Tucker. I have the Milwaukee Bucks coming out of the Eastern Conference. Carry the hell on.
That is a scorching hot take. Max, what do you have to say about that?
I appreciate your point, Perk. I like the fact that Budenholzer's obviously been seeing what people have been saying. Got, swept when he 60 wins in Atlanta, swept. Well, he didn't have a superstar. Then he got a superstar, not much better in the postseason. So they used a lot of the early part of this season to get better and try new things to be ready for the playoffs. And I hear you. Like Drew Holiday's a big addition. He's a big game player. They don't have enough. The bottom line is to win a championship with a big like Giannis, and he's a big dressed up as a wing sometimes. You need another dude as good as him. Shaq didn't win any with Penny. He needed a prime Kobe and a prime Wade. Kareem didn't win any without Magic or Oscar Robertson. Bigs need other dudes, at least one other dude who's a crime partner on his level. And I love me some Drew Holiday. And Chris Middleton's a good player. but those guys are not enough to offset KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. That's a big three.
Although Milwaukee is their 22nd ranked defense, they're number one offensively, I will say that Kendrick Perkins is closer to right than wrong. I'm still going with the Brooklyn Nets, but I consider the Milwaukee Bucks the number one threat to the Brooklyn Nets in the Eastern Conference. I really, really do, because I think that their size, what they bring to the table in terms of their athleticism, and now how they've elevated their defensive prowess on the perimeter is something that we can't ignore. Max Kellerman, your argument, I will remind you that just a few weeks ago, you were making a big deal about how Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, blocked Kevin Durant's jump shot on the perimeter. How many people could do that?
Yeah,
That's what you kept saying. That's what you kept saying. That's what you said. I'm just saying. All I said.
How many can?
I didn't ask you to speak. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I didn't ask you to, I'm asking you to listen. I'm saying to you, you brought that up because you were trying to make the point that the Greek freak could do things almost no one else could do. So then when I take that into consideration and I think about the acquisition of a Jrue Holiday, Middleton still being there, and P.J. Tucker there, I'm thinking about how they vastly improved as a perimeter defensive team. And so when I take that into consideration, along with their size, athleticism, ability in the open court, etc., I can't ignore that combined with the pressure that's amped up and what they've experienced over the last 2 years, that this could very well be their time. I still don't believe that it's enough to overcome the offensive prowess of the Brooklyn Nets. But if there is one team that can knock them off in the Eastern Conference, I believe the number one threat to the Brooklyn Nets right now is the Milwaukee Bucks.
The Sixers. Give me, if you want me to pick one, I'll take the Sixers. Perk, what are they going to do with James Harden? Jrue Holiday's an excellent defender against smaller guards. You see what Kevin Porter Jr. did to him the other night? How long ago was that now? A week or two ago? He, in 8 minutes of their matchup, 7 for 11, dropped 20 points on him, finished with 50. What's he going to do with James Harden? You cannot stop this Nets team. They got three dudes who can get their own shot, or shot at historically great levels, who hit from everywhere, historically great levels. I'm not even talking about Joe Harris, who's the fourth option, who's a deadly three-point shooter. There's just nothing you can do. What are you going to do to stop the Nets?
Well, Max, first of all, that lets me further know again that you haven't been watching the game of basketball to sit up here and say some baloney about Jrue Holiday only could guard smaller guards. Jrue Holiday has the strength of a 7-footer. He's not afraid to battle anyone. And by the way, the last time I watched Jrue Holiday play the Brooklyn Nets, he was on Kyrie Irving heels like a pair of socks, okay? Yeah. And then look, listen, let me tell you. Defensively, I know they rank at the bottom, but we already know that this team could amp up. They have great rim protection, and Giannis and Brook Lopez. P.J. Tucker cause KD, a little trouble. No one can stop Kevin Durant, but at least he makes it tough on him. Offensively, they have everything around them. They have shooting, Pat Connaughton, right? They have Byron Forbes. They have guys that can stretch the floor, and I love it now because you can move P.J. Tucker to the 4 spot, put Giannis at the 5, and you tell me how can you stop a pick and roll with Jrue Holiday and Giannis, or Chris Middleton and Giannis? And then, you know what's the best part about the Milwaukee Bucks? They got the Miami Heat first round. And this is going to help them. Why? Because Eric Spoelstra is going to throw everything in the book at Giannis. He's going to see different coverages. And once they beat the Miami Heat, they're going to come out of that series with a lot of confidence, because we all know that the Brooklyn Nets are not going to play the same level of defense that the Miami Heat are going to bring to the table.
Jrue Holiday's a type of dude that lets you get by the Miami Heat. If they needed something to get by a team like the Heat, they got the right guy. I don't want to reduce it to this, but sometimes it's this simple. Name the top 4 players, or the top 3 players even, on the Milwaukee Bucks, and then just name them on the Brooklyn Nets. It's a mismatch at the top. Those are the dudes who are going to absorb the most minutes, run the most plays, score the most points, and that team is going to win. It's the history of the NBA.
You have to remember, Max.
Go ahead, Stephen. I'm sorry.
You have to remember something, Max. In the postseason last year, one of the things that just typified the greatness of Eric Spoelstra, obviously, even though it's allowed, you really don't utilize zones. It's really man-to-man, and that's what you throw at teams. And, man up, you might double somebody on occasion, those kind of things. In Steph Curry's case, triple team him, for crying out loud, quadruple team him. But usually, this is what you do. You man up. Eric Spoelstra threw a zone at Milwaukee last year. Completely discombobulated them. Milwaukee, if they overcome Miami in that first round, you're talking about their confidence elevating, and things are going to, because we all know we don't expect Brooklyn to be a problem defensively. It's that they outscore everybody else, not that they're going to stop anybody. So if you're Milwaukee and you've got confidence in your ability to put points on the board, and now you don't have to rely on your shot, what you have to rely on is your own defense, you never know what that could turn into.
6-game series, maybe. Maybe they could take 6.
I'll wrap this up by saying this. Big Perk has the Bucks in the finals. Carry on. All right, now let me get to the Hall of Famer. Chris Bosh is back with us here on First Take. So Bosh, obviously no stranger to that championship feeling, having won 2 titles with the Big Three in Miami. In recent years, we've seen Big Threes emerge around the league, with the Warriors winning a few rings, the Cavs' historic win. And I want to start with you on this one, Chris. So outside of LeBron and AD, do you think in today's game it's necessary to have a big three to win a championship when we're looking at teams like the Clippers or the Sixers that just have 2?
I don't think it's necessary. It's definitely a model that people can follow. It's always taken championships. It's always taken talent to win championships. You could go back, into the 80s with Magic and Kareem. It was more of a dynamic duo game, Dr. J, Moses Malone. And then as we got into the latter years of basketball, as it evolved, Michael Jordan and the Bulls kind of set the tone for the talent that it's going to take to win a championship. And that's with MJ. That's with Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, the teammates that he had, Dennis Rodman. You could argue that was a big three. A very underrated Ron Harper was on that second three-peat team. It's always going to take a tremendous amount of talent to win a championship. With that said, you still have to come together as a team. Basketball is still a team sport. It's very difficult to gel together to get that continuity that's needed on the court on both offense and on defense to win a championship, because it's great, to have a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry, but if there is no connection between those two guys, then, you're probably not going to be successful. So it still takes a lot to gel as a team, and you have to have talent. So it's like that perfect mix of both that you need to win an NBA championship.
I think the answer to the question is yes. There are always exceptions to the rule. Like if someone gets hurt, you know what I mean? Like the Warriors got hurt so Kawhi could grab it because they really didn't have their whole team there. And 2 of the guys got hurt really because Klay also went down. But he ain't getting no wins without Chris Bosh. You need a big 3 nowadays. Look, let's just look at the winners. You could even say, well, except for when you have 2 MVP, because not every big 3 is created equal. You have LeBron and AD. Those are 2 MVP caliber players. Those are an enormous 2, not just a big 3. But playoff Rondo. I don't know that the Lakers get out of the West right now. Let's see if Schroeder can be like a Rondo. Rondo, when the playoffs come around, is an all-star, right? Okay, look at the winners. I mentioned, Toronto won because Golden State got hurt. The KD, Steph, Klay, Dre Warriors won 2. Before that, LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. Before that, Kevin Love and Kyrie were hurt. So the big 3 on the Warriors won. Before that, the Heat and the Spurs went back and forth with at least 3 Hall of Famers on each team. With the Spurs, you might look and say 4 because Kawhi was young. He won Finals MVP. And, he was the big 3, or is it kind of like a pretty big 4, right? If it's not exactly a big, go on and on and on. It maybe once upon a time, if you had a prime Kobe with Gasol and a whole bunch of other good players, maybe you don't need that 3rd all-star. But in the last 10 years, boy, I'll tell you what, maybe 1 out of 10 years, you can win without a big 3. Otherwise, pretty good idea to have at least 3 all-stars on the team.
First of all, a couple of things. Number 1, Tony Parker could really play. Manu Ginobili could really, really play. They weren't considered the elite individual talents in the NBA. They could just really play with a superstar in Tim Duncan. Okay? When we look at Draymond Green before Kevin Durant arrived, they had gone to back-to-back finals and won a chip with Steph and Clay. And at the time that Steph and Clay won the championship, they weren't considered two superstars. It was really about Steph and Clay could really shoot. We elevated our level of appreciation by watching these guys perform. When we looked at the Detroit Pistons, Chauncey, Tayshaun, Rasheed Wallace, Bennett Wallace, these brothers could play. But as individual talents, you didn't look at them and say, superstar, 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 Chauncey Billups, of course, Rip Hamilton.
We'll bring up the Mavs now with Dirk.
Time out. We didn't look at them like that. My only point in saying that is saying this. If you look, for example, at a Chris Middleton and you look at a Drew Holiday, is it plausible that teams like that with a superstar that acts like a superstar, meaning plays like a superstar in a big moment, can he propel guys with that level of talent to the promised land?
No.
History has shown that can hold on.
Not without
we
injury.
Heard you.
Not without
we
injury.
We heard you. I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word. I sat here and shut my mouth and listened to your drivel. All I'm saying is this. You look throughout history. When we talk about LeBron went to 4 NBA finals with the Miami Heat and then 4 more in Cleveland. He went to 8 straight NBA finals. The Golden State Warriors went to 5 NBA finals straight. You act like there's like 8 or 9 teams that all had super teams and they all won titles. No, we're talking about the same dudes that have just been dominant over the last decade.
That's exactly how do you look at the facts and come up to the opposite conclusion of the truth? LeBron only went to Cleveland because they got so many first overalls that they could get. Not only Kyrie, but trade for Kevin Love. He had 2 dudes.
Were you not the one that said Kyrie? Were you not the one that said Kyrie Irving? Kyrie Irving never did a you, not me. You said Kyrie Irving. You said Kyrie Irving never did a damn thing until LeBron arrived. And I said to you, Kyrie was a baby.
He was an all-star still. The point is, every example you use, even the ones that actually are true, like Detroit from 2004, that's the exception that proves the rule. If you talk about, well, they went to the finals, they won one. Yeah, because LeBron was without a big 3 because both dudes got hurt. So then the other big 3 won. And talk about the Spurs, Tim Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, Kawhi. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big 4, actually. Sorry.
I would say one of the things that's interesting about this year is, of course, everybody's looking to the Nets to be successful with their big 3. Their challenge is going to be lack of playing time together. You know, if you look at the top teams in the league, record-wise, if you look at Phoenix, if you look at Utah, if you look at Denver, even Philly, you can argue that there is no big 3 construct with those teams. So it will be a very interesting playoffs to kind of see what really transpires, what will be important, and what rises to the top, because this might be the year that the big 3 scenario might not work out only because they haven't had a chance to play together.
Absolutely. Right. We haven't seen the Lakers really at full strength or the Nets. All right, let's keep it rolling here, guys. Injuries this season, as Max just said, have plagued the Lakers. And despite winning the last 5 games, the Lakers entered the new play-in tournament at 42-30 and are slated to play the Warriors. That's Wednesday night in LA. Max, is this LeBron's hardest road to a chip?
Yeah, if he wins. I mean, like when KD joined the 73-win Warriors, that's impossible. So you could say that. But in terms of if he wins it, and you look at all the years that he won it, then I would say yes, because as a 7 seed, and by the way, don't lose the play-in, because then if you win the second play-in, you're an 8 seed, to go through the Western Conference, swimming with those Sharks, coming off an injury, where your second banana is also coming off an injury, where Schroeder hasn't played in a while. Talk about guys who haven't played together recently, to get through the Western Conference and then wind up in a finals where I believe, health permitting, the big 3 on the Nets will be there. I would say yes. If he wins the chip this year, this will have been his hardest road to the finals.
I'd say the hardest road was last year because of the bubble. What they had to go through last year, with the season being halted, coming back with all the distractions. The Clippers were supposed to be there. Denver was formidable enough. and Portland had made a run, and they were just clicking on all cylinders when they went in. When they went into the playoffs after their bubble play because Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum was doing what they were doing. I would think that, I'm just saying, not necessarily in terms of just competition, but the fact that last year was the way that it was, with all the distractions and their continuity disrupted, etc. I view last year as the toughest.
You know what? I'd have to say that this year, I can't say that it would be the toughest. It would definitely rank up there. And kind of going on your point, Stephen A., last year and this year, it's been this weird kind of merge. They only had a few weeks off until this season kicked off. And we all know that it's way harder to defend a championship than win it the second time. And I think if you look back in the past, in every playoff situation, we've never really seen Bron with a nagging injury. The last time he had a serious injury, he was able pretty much to sit out the rest of the season with that growing, and the Lakers were able to get a decent pick, and he was able to get a little bit of rest. They haven't had any rest. They have continued to go, and we've seen that with the injuries to AD and Bron, and even with Schroeder being out due to unfortunate circumstances, they have so many challenges ahead of them. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do as a team, identity-wise, how they're going to put wins together, and most importantly, how is Bron going to play with that nagging ankle injury, and how is AD going to handle being the number one scoring option, and how he's going to adjust to defenses adjusting to him. So it'll be a very fascinating scenario for them, but I think definitely with lack of continuity, injuries, and really just a nonstop schedule that they've had since the bubble picked up last year, it will be a challenge.
One thing that keeps coming up, Molly and Stephen A. and Chris, that I will admit from our previous argument about the big three, whenever we point to a big three that might stumble, it's because of injury. And I'm treating injury like, well, that's just like an aberration, right? But really, it's a feature. If you concentrate a lot of resources in three players, then an injury to any one of them is a huge blow to you. So I have to acknowledge that. When I say it's all about the big three, provided health, maybe I can't just say provided health because there's always that risk. Everything you're talking about now with the Lakers, Chris, lack of continuity, short rest in the offseason, nagging injury with LeBron, same thing with AD, points to that. Points to concentration of resources in a couple of guys where now the possibility of an injury hurts you worse.
Well, I mean, if you're going all in, you got to go all in. And that's the thing with the big three structure. It's a bunch of different ways to try to construct a championship team. And yes, you're right. If you're going to put those resources in to three players, then you run the risk of that. I remember back in our first championship run, the year after losing to Dallas, we're trying to get back and hopefully excel at the mountaintop. I tore my groin, and LeBron and Dwayne were still able to hold it down as a duo. But we had great players. We had guys who were willing to step up. That was always our motto, next man up. And it takes a season of dedication, practice, and hard work and togetherness, really, to get your team to that point to where your bench guys can feel that they can rise to the occasion, make some things happen, even if you don't have one of your best players there. But, you have to be as close to 100% as possible to win a championship. And if you've got a big three, all three have to be healthy to win it.
No question. All right, let me spice this up real quick, fellas. Stephen A., I'm starting with you. Let's pretend that LeBron does win the championship with all these injuries he's dealt with in this difficult road. Does he finally catch MJ, in your opinion?
No. Listen, I'm going to say it again for the 1,000th time.
I'm going to keep asking.
LeBron will never exceed MJ in my eyes.
Okay.
Because I'm counting what I witnessed the first 8-9 years of his career. I'm taking all of that into consideration, and I'm not talking numbers. I'm talking an approach. I'm talking a mentality. I'm talking about, there's a lot of things that I could pick apart that's just my taste in things.
I think about an assassin and a killer's mentality. Somebody that didn't come across as if they feared the moment ever. You know, one of the things I call LeBron James the greatest small forward, even though he's really a point forward, like a point guard. He plays a small forward position. I call him a small forward, the greatest small forward in the history of basketball. I still wouldn't want him in the last 2 minutes over Larry Bird. See how it is? In other words, I know that he's better all around. But I'm rolling with Larry Bird in the last 2 minutes.
Stephen A., you, a couple weeks ago, sat here and went, if LeBron wins this year, I may have to consider. And I like that take better than this one, and I'll tell you why. I don't have religious devotion to Michael Jordan. And I think you do Jordan a disservice when you're like, no matter what LeBron does, it could never happen. Because to me, it's not about, it's MJ, I grew up watching that. It's rational. Jordan really is the greatest. If LeBron gets through the injuries in the West and beats a big three Nets in the finals, I think we have to consider that.
Whoa.
We got to consider it.
Chris, we got 30 seconds. I want to hear from you.
This has always been my argument with this subject. I want to take Bill Russell. I want to take Bron, Mike, Kobe. I'm probably missing somebody else. We can put them on their own island. Magic. We put them on their own island and build the Mount Rushmore and just leave those guys alone. They all stand alone in their greatness. You know, we can never truly 100% agree on who the GOAT is.
I'm not asking for anybody.
I'm not asking for. I expect more.
I'm not asking for anybody to agree with me. I don't give a damn if anybody agrees with me. I'm going by what I saw the first 8, 9, 10 years of his career. I'm thinking of that.
The answer is Jordan. There is an answer to this question.